Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku was Momo's personal bodyguard and she fell in love with him, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, 29 Tigers, link is in the description. Also subscribe to our channel and like this video, so let's begin the video. It was another morning for 8-year-old Izuku Midoriya. The young boy was currently making his way to the grocery store to buy anything that could be on sale. I hope that they have a sale on pork. I would reply like some katsudon. It's been a while since I have had it. The last time I had it was when he was broken from his thoughts when he heard a scream come from the alley. What was that? He says and runs over to check it out. I hope whatever it is isn't anything serious. He says as rounds the corner and what he sees scares him. It looks to be a family with a man in a really nice black suit, a woman in an elegant black dress, and a little girl that looks to be about his age. He also sees what looks to be what he thinks is another man on the ground unable to move. Damn you bastard, you have a paralysis quirk, don't you? The man on the floor asks, as a man that appears to be in his 30s wearing brown boots, black jeans, a black shirt, and a brown jacket, walks over to him and puts his boot on the other man's chest and smiles. So what if I do? What are you going to whine and say it was a cheap shot? Then the man says and looks over at the woman. Oh, well look at what we have here, such a lovely woman, me and my boys are going to have fun with you. He says and licks his lips. Don't you dare touch my wife. The man in the nice suit yells. I really hate the heroic husband almost as much as I hate bodyguards. The man with his boot on the now identified bodyguard yells and starts to stomp on him. The bodyguard yells in pain. Jack. The woman yells. I'm alright miss, I have had worse. Jack responds. I doubt that buddy, but I think you're about to. The man standing over him says and pulls a gun out from behind his back and points it right in the face and smiles. You're about to die in front of your people. Tell me bodyguard, how does it feel to know that you have failed, that the man he killed, the woman raped, and the little girl has to watch it all? He says almost laughing. Run, get out here, run. Jack yells and looks at the family behind him. They are too frozen in fear of what they want to do. Jack, we can't just leave you here. The woman says with tears in her eyes. Ayako is right, we can't leave you here, you're like a member of the family. The man says. Thanks boss, that means a lot to me, but please run, if he really does have a paralyzing quirk, there's no way of knowing how it works. Jack says. That's sweet, they are all concerned, it makes me sick. The man says and growls a little. Time to say goodbye. He says and is about to pull the trigger, he stops when he hears a scream. Leave them alone. An angry Izuku yells and everyone looks at him. The little boy. They all think at the same time. Scram kid, this is none of your business. The man holding the gun says. No, I said leave them alone. Izuku says and starts to growl. So if you want to play the hero kid, you die first. He says and points the gun at Izuku. No, he's just a. Ayako starts to say, then bang. I hate hero wannabes. He says. Now he stops and looks at Izuku. How are you alive? He says, falling to the ground scared. Stay back. He says and shoots the gun until he runs out of bullets. You should have listened when I told you to leave them alone, now it's time to pay. Izuku says with a smirk. And then what the others see shocks, amazes, and scares them all at once. A spirit of tiger appears behind the boy and runs into him, covering him in what looks to be a hero suit that is all green with some black stripes. The man looks scared as Izuku rushes him and kicks him into a wall, knocking him out. He then lets out a roar in victory, sounding exactly like a tiger. He walks over to the man on the floor and he powers down. Are you okay, sir? Izuku asks and looks at the man. Yeah, I'm okay kid, thanks, you got a pretty amazing quirk. Jack says as he starts to sit up. Izuku looked at him and confessed. What do you mean sir, I'm quirkless. Izuku says. Kid, trust me you're not, Jack says and gets up and looks around. God, this is so embarrassing. He says and facepalms. The family walks over and chuckles a little. What the fact, you got saved by a child? The man asks and laughs before getting slapped in the back of the head. Ayako, what was that for? He says and rubs the back of his head. We were all saved by this child. She says and gets down to Izuku's eye level. Hello little one, my name is Ayako, that's my husband Noritashi, and this is our daughter Momo. She says, pointing to them. Nice to meet you. My name is Izuku Midoriya. He says to Momo and reaches his hand out for a handshake. Momo grabs it and shakes his hand. I'm Momo. Nice to meet you. He says. Same. She says. Ayako just smiles at them. Momo's father walks over to them and looks at Izuku. Thank you for saving us. He says and ruffles Izuku's hair. Why don't we go find your parents? I'm sure they must be worried. He says. Izuku looks at the ground sadly. I don't have a parent, not anymore. He says and starts crying. Ayako looks at Noritashi and mouths smooth and stands up. What do you mean? Noritashi asks. Dad died when I was very little according to Mom, and Mom died last week in a villain attack. He says and continues to cry. Momo puts her arms around Izuku and hugs him. Izuku slowly starts to calm down. Ayako. Noritashi and Jack are shocked by her actions, but that doesn't stop Ayako from taking a few pictures without anyone noticing. Nori, why don't we take the boy in, and in return he can be Momo's bodyguard? Ayako whispers in her husband's ear. Well, he did save us, and the boy will probably end up on the streets in a few days. The orphanages can't keep up with all the orphans nowadays. He whispers. Jack can train him. He says and smiles. What? Jack says. Momo and Izuku look up at the grown-up. Izuku, can I ask you something? Noritashi asks. Izuku simply nods. How would you like to come live with us, but there's a condition: once you are in middle and high school, and up till time sees fit, you have to be a bodyguard for one of us. He says. Who will be? Izuku asks. Momo's Ayako says and looks at Momo with a huge smile. Momo looks at the floor. Say yes, please say yes. She thinks to herself. Okay, deal. Izuku says and reaches out for Noritashi's hand and shakes it. I hope you will serve the Yaoyorozu family well, Izuku. Ayako says. I will. He says. As Izuku and the others walk out of the alley, Jack is on the phone talking to someone. Hey, it's me, send the limo and tell the staff to get lunch ready for 4 people. Yes, I said 4, look, I'll explain later, just do what I say. He says, hangs up and puts the phone in his pocket and sighs. Noritashi looks at him and chuckles. Let me guess, not looking forward to explaining how you got saved by child Jack. Noritashi says and looks over at Momo and Izuku talking to each other. No, sir, I'm not. Jack says and pulls out a cigarette and offers one to Noritashi, who declines. Jack lights the cigarette and starts smoking. Do you really want me to train the kid? He asks. Of course we do, you're the best guard we have. Ayako says. Thank you for the kind words, ma'am, but I don't feel like the best after today, he says as he continues to smoke his cigarette. Jack, don't worry about, like you said, if he did have a paralysis quirk, there is no way of knowing how it works. From what I hear, there are as many ways one could work as there are people that use them. Noritashi says. Yeah, I guess you're right. Jack says and puts out the last bit of his cigarette just as the limo arrives. Limo's here, time to head home. Ayako says to the 2 kids. Jack opens the door and they all get in. Suezo, please take us home. Noritoshi says. Right away, sir. Suezo starts and drives to the manor. Who's the kid? He thinks to himself. So what were you 2 talking about? Ayako asks once the limo starts to drive them to the manor. Well, I was telling Izuku a little about myself, and before he could tell me about himself, a limo came. Momo says and gets 2 water bottles out of the fridge in the limo and hands one to Izuku. Well, why don't we get to know him now? Noritoshi says. Great idea. How old are you, Izuku? Ayako asks him. I'm 8 years old. He says and takes a sip of his water. 8. You're only a year younger than me. Momo says. My birthday is July 15. He says and looks at the expressions on the adults' faces. What is it? He asks with a tilt of his head. Nothing, please continue. Jack says. July 15, that was last week, poor kid, they all think at once. My favorite food is katsudon, and my favorite color is green. I also like music. He says. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Izuku. Ayako says. You're welcome. Izuku replies. Izuku, when Jack said that you had an amazing quirk, you said you didn't have one. What did you mean? Noritashi asks. Well, on my 4th birthday my mom took me to the doctors so they could see if I had a quirk or not. When he came back with the x-ray, he said that I didn't have one because of the joints in my pinky. Izuku says. Well, if that's true, how do you know? Momo asks and looks at Izuku. I don't know. Izuku says. I can answer that. Says a mysterious voice. They all look around. Who said that? They all say in unison. It was I, the voice says, and then they see something from next to Izuku. What's going on? Izuku says. Calm yourself, child, I'll not harm any of you. The spirit says. I'm what you now call a quirk. It says. What do you mean, what we now call a quirk? Jack says. Well, you see, thousands of years ago humans like today prayed to gods for blessings. I'm one of those blessings. I was a blessing for a very capable warrior, and when he passed I was supposed to move past to the next person I deemed worthy, but sadly, none were until today. He says. What's your name? Momo asks. I do not have one, I was only called a blessing, nothing more. He says. Why don't I give you one? Izuku asks. If that's what you want, then I will gladly accept it. He says. Izuku thinks for a while. I got it, your name is Koro. Izuku says with a smile. I like Koro. Koro says and looks around. Allow me to explain what the boy can do. He has enhanced sight, smell, hearing, and night vision. He can heal from wounds faster, as he will be able to distribute power to his body to increase output. He also has a boost to his reflexes. Koro says. Wow, that's just amazing. Ayako says. Yes, but the boy needs to train his body so he can use the power-ups with no backlash. Koro says. We understand, Jack will train him, and everything. Northosi says. Koro nods and looks at him. I hope you train him well. Koro says. I will not worry about it. Jack says. Koro, I have a question. Do you have to apply every time so Izuku can put on his hero costume? Momo asks. Yes, I do. Why do you ask? He says. Well, I think it can give people quite a scare. Is there another way to do it? She asks. Let me try something. He says. In a few seconds a jade tiger necklace appears around Izuku's neck. How's this? Koro asks from inside the necklace as it glows to match his speech. That will do fine, plus the relay brings out Izuku's eyes. Momo says with a huge smile on her face. Izuku blushes at the compliment. Thank you. He says. Does she like him? All adults think at once. All you have to do, Izuku, is grab the necklace and put a little of your energy into it and your hero suit will appear. Also, if you need to talk to me, just call my name and I'll answer, and with that I'll take my leave from all of you. Goodbye. Koro says, and the glow dies down until it is just like normal jade. Look, Izuku, we are home. Momo says and points out to the manor, and Izuku is awestruck at the sight before him. Wow. Is all he can say. As the limo comes to a stop in front of the house, Jack opens the door and everyone gets out. Wow, your house is beautiful. Izuku says as he looks at the manor. Thank you, Izuku, why don't we head inside for lunch? Ayako says. Jack, it's going to be story time soon. Noritashi says laughing and then gets hit on the back of his head. Really again, Ayako? He says, rubbing the back of his head. Stop making fun of Jack or you're sleeping on the couch in the living room tonight, got it? Ayako says as she follows Momo and Izuku up the stairs. Yes, dear. Noritashi replies as he sweets bullets, knowing too well what it's like to be on his wife's bad side. As they walk into the manor, they are greeted by a maid. She bows before greeting them. Welcome home, master, mistress, lady, and she stops when she sees Izuku. Master, who's the boy? She asks as she points to Izuku. This is Izuku, he saved us from a bad man that took down Jack. Momo says, petting Izuku's hair. The maid looks shocked and looks at Jack, who facepalms at the memory. It's true, she asks, surprised, and gets nods in return from everyone. Wow, that's a lot to process. She says and bows before leaving. Right now everyone is going to know faster than I'd like them to. Jack says as he walks off. So lunch? Noritashi asks. Time skips nighttime later that day. Izuku is being given a tour of the manor by Momo and her parents. Izuku, earlier today you said you liked music, do you play any instruments? Momo asks. I started to learn how to play the piano, I want to learn how to play more things, I also kind of started to write music. Izuku says. Really? Can we hear it? Ayako asks. It's not finished yet, so I have to rewrite some stuff in it and also get better at playing instruments. Izuku says. Well, if we get you lessons, will you play for us from time to time? Noritashi asks. You don't have to do that, sir. Izuku says. Think of it as a late birthday present. Ayako says. But Izuku gets cut off by Momo whispering in his ear. Just accept it, you're not going to win. Momo says. Okay, thank you. Izuku says. Later that night in Ayako and Noritashi's room. Hey Nori, have you noticed the way Momo is around Izuku? Ayako asks as she changes into her black silk nightgown. A little. Why do you ask? Noritashi says. Well, do you think that she actually likes him, or is it like a playground crush type thing? She asks. I don't know, I think that will fall under your department. He says. Ayako gets her phone and goes to her pictures and smiles at the picture she took earlier that day when they meet Izuku. Just look at how cute they are. She squeals. Noritashi looks at the picture and chuckles. If in the future my daughter wants to be with her prince in shining armor, I won't stand in the way of her happiness. Time skipped 2 years. Izuku has started training with Jack in various forms of hand-to-hand combat such as judo, mixed martial arts, MMA, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, kung fu, sistema, capoeira, and much more. He has also been trained in basic firearm usage as well as sword, bow, staff, nunchucks, and other weapons. He has also trained his quirk that he calls Spirit. He also helps Momo train her quirk when she asks him to. He has learned that they're much More he can do with his quirk, like something he calls spirit force that can make Koro's spirit body form around him to give him more tiger-like abilities and characteristics. It also lets him create things such as spirit weapons and spiritual tiger paws and claws he can use to grab things and pull things. He has also learned that he can use his roars in combat situations. As well, he can also found something out for Koro that is something that will happen to him when his loses all control of his emotions. Koro basically calls it primal. He can also make spirit clones to help him in combat. He has something called spirit force that can send waves of green spiritual energy at an opponent. On top of that, he has started learning other languages such as English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and many more. Time skip 1 year. It is Izuku's birthday and he decides to play a song on a piano that he has dedicated to his parents. He makes his way to the music room with the sheet music, sets it down, he sits down and starts to play. When I was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. When I was 7 years old. Izuku starts singing and gets tears in his eyes remembering his mother. It's a big world, but I thought I was bigger, pushing myself to the limits. I'm learning quicker. Momo is currently walking around when she hears music and singing coming from the music room. If Izuku is singing, I need to see and hear this for myself, she says and walks over to the room and is about to go in, but stops at the door. I ate orphaned, surviving wasn't easy, but then my life got better. Now I'm 11 years old. My daddy would have told me, go get yourself a wife or you'll be lonely. Now I'm 11 years old. Izuku sings more and more as tears form in his eyes and he tries to keep his composure to finish the song. Momo hears the lyrics and feels her heartache, remembering how Izuku told her how he was bullied for being quirkless, and then when he lost his mom no one wanted to help him, that he lost his mom right after his birthday. Poor Izuku. I have a dream like my daddy before me, so I started writing songs, started playing music. Something about it seemed to really warm me. Because the one I love is the one that really knows me. Mom's parents walk by and see Momo standing there. Momo, what's Ayako starts to say, but is cut off when she sees Momo put a finger to her mouth and point into the room. When I'm 20 years old, my story will be told by the morning sun, when life was lonely, when I'm 20 years old. I see my goals, I don't believe in failure, cause I know the smallest voices, they make it major. I'll have friends with me, at least one's in favor, and if we don't meet soon, I hope to see you later. When I'm 20 years old, my story will be told. I was singing about everything I saw before me, when I'm 20 years old. They all listen to his singing and are impressed by it. They have only heard Izuku play, but never sing. When I'm 30 years old, my songs are sold. I have traveled around the world and I'm still roaming. When I'm 30 years old, I'm still learning about life. My wife will bring children for me so I can sing all my songs and can tell them stories. Most of my friends are with me, some still out seeking glory, some I'm forced to leave behind. My friend, I'm sorry. Momo's mom smiles and leans down and whispers in Momo's ear. I wonder who that woman could be, she says, and Momo blushes a very dark shade of red. When I'm 60 years old, my daddy's gone, remembering life, and my life is better. I hope I made him happy. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. When I'm 60 years old, will I still think this world is still cold? Or will my wife and children save me when I'm 60 years old? When I'm 60 years old, will I still think this world is still cold? Or will my wife and children save me when I'm 60 years old? When I was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. When I was 7 years old. Tears start to stream down Izuku's face. When I was 7 years old. Izuku stops playing and singing and cries a little. I love you, Mom, Dad, I miss you guys. The door opens and Izuku turns around to see Momo with tears in her eyes running to him and hugs him. Izuku, I'm sure your parents loved it, we sure did, she says. And Izuku looks over and sees her parents. So you guys heard? He asks, a little embarrassed. Yeah, we did, it was truly lovely, Ayako says. Time skip last year of middle school. In the past years, Izuku and Momo have had quite a growth spurt. Izuku has grown to be 5'10 and has a lean muscular body. He has also cut his hair, much to Momo's protest, but when she saw him with it she couldn't help but blush at how cute he looked with it and how it really complemented everything about him. Momo had grown to be 5'8 with a very curvy body that would make any full-grown woman jealous, and needless to say, when that happened, it really put Izuku's job into overdrive. Especially today. Momo and Izuku were currently walk back to the manor from the middle school they attended due to the cars undergoing tune-ups and due to the fact that Izuku has been keeping Momo safe for years now, and not just in Japan, but in other countries as well. Her parents saw no problem of that. Hey Izuku, can I ask you a question? Momo says. She walks alongside Izuku as they exit the school gates. Of course, Lady Yaoyorozu. Izuku replies and looks at Momo, who is pouting. Why do you call me Lady Yaoyorozu? We have known each other long enough for you to call me Momo, you know, like when we were kids. She says. Is that the question? Izuku asks. No, it's not, you baka. She yells at Izuku, making him flinch. She takes a deep breath. Sorry Izuku, anyway, why didn't you want the recommendation to get into the UA? She asks. It's fine Momo, I really do appreciate it, but I'm your bodyguard. How can I be sure that I can protect you against different things if I don't push myself and my power to its limits? He says and looks at Momo and gives her a smile. Momo smiles back and then looks forward and blushes. There he goes again, he is always so heroic and that smile is just so cute. She squeals inwardly. Yeah, I guess anyway, were you able to finish the thing my father wanted? She asks. Yeah, last month he sent the sheet music to the band you guys always get, I think Mistress Yaoyorozu will be quite pleased. He says. As they are about to walk past an ally, three men appear in front of them. Hey there girly, why don't you ditch this loser and come hang out with us? The first one says. Yeah, we'll show you a great time. Says another one. And I think you'll really like it. Says the last one. Izuku looks at Momo and smiles. My lady, please stay back for your safety. He says and drops his bag along with the coat of his school uniform. Don't go overboard like last time. She says while sighing and walking a safe distance away. Take all the fun out of it, why don't you? He says as walks up to the three men with a sadistic smile on his face. Oh well, look fellas, her boyfriend wants to defend her. The leader says. At the word boyfriend, Momo blushes. Boyfriend, if only that were true. Izuku also blushes. Boyfriend, as much as I wish it were true, it could never be real. Izuku suddenly grabs one of them and quickly knees him in the solar plexus at least 6 times rapidly. You're going to pay for that, brat. The leader yells and rushes Izuku with a knife. Izuku dodges and grabs his arm, twisting it until he drops the knife and sweeps his feet so he falls on the ground. Izuku grabs his arms and the knife and stabs him. The last one tries to shoot Izuku, but thanks to his quick reflexes, he dodges the bullet only to be grazed on his left arm. Izuku quickly rushes him, knocks the gun out his hand, puts him in a chokehold, and knocks him out. 58 seconds, a little slower than normal. Izuku says to himself and walks over to Momo. Hey Izuku, you're blending. She screams worried and grabs his arm, looking at it worried. I'm fine my lady, nothing to worry about. He says. Nothing to worry about, look at it. She says and quickly makes a roll of bandages and wraps it around his arm. Let's get going, it's starting to get late and you still have to get ready. He says and they start walking. As they near the street they are going to cross, they hear explosions and see fire. What in the world? Momo says and runs over to the sounds. Momo, wait, it's not safe. Izuku says and runs after her. Momo, why did you run off like that? He asks once he catches up to her. Izuku, look. She says and points to a sludge villain that has taken an ash blonde boy hostage. Damn it, none of our quirks are suitable for this. Deetherm says. Izuku growls under his breath. Momo, please stay back, I'll handle this, he says and runs out into danger, grabbing his necklace and donning his hero suit. Once he gets to the villain, he uses spirit manifestation to make a paw with a chain attached to it to grab the hostage and toss him to the heroes. You brat, you caused me my meat shield, you're going to make up for it. The villain says. The villain lunges at Izuku, but before he can land a hit on him, Izuku lets out a powerful roar that splatters the villain all over. 45 seconds, not bad. Izuku says and collects the villain and tosses him to the heroes. Hey kid, are you stupid or something? Deetherm's shots. No, but you are, since when does a hero cower in fear because he or she doesn't have the right quirk? Izuku retorts. You're coming with us for using your quirk without a license. Kamui, Wood says. I have a bodyguard license, idiot. Izuku says and shows it to him. That's one of the reasons I acted, my lady was nearby and that was a danger to her. Now if you cowards will excuse me, I have to escort my lady home. Izuku says and walks off, powering down, leaving the heroes and crowd speechless. Izuku, Koro says. What is Koro? Izuku asks. I feel like I just unlocked a new power for you, we should try it when we get back. Koro says. Agreed, Izuku says. Yaoyorozu Manor. Finally, home. Momo says as she and Izuku walk through the door. Well, you should go get ready for tonight. Izuku says. Yeah, I guess. She gets cut off when she hears laughing coming from the living room. She walks into the living room and sees her parents and Jack watching TV, and they have the scene of Izuku back talking about the heroes playing. Oh man, I thought I had it rough when the kid saved me, but this is hilarious. Jack says, laughing his ass off. Right, I can't wait to see how the Hero Association reacts. Noritashi says. So, you liked Izuku's speech? Momo asks for their attention. Yeah, but I really liked the part when he said his lady was in danger, and that's another reason he acted. Ayako says, and only gets a blushing Momo. My seam struck a nerve. She says, and smirks. Mother, that's not funny. Momo says, trying to compose herself. Where's Izuku? Noritashi asks. Koro told him he unlocked a new power, so they wanted to test it out in the back. Momo says, and walks off. Wait up, we want to see this. Ayako says, walking after Momo. When they reach the courtyard, they see Izuku has drawn something on the ground. Izuku, what is that? Noritashi asks. Master Yaoyorozu. Says, and bows slightly. Please forgive me, but I felt something telling me to draw this. I believe it's due to my power growing. Izuku says. It's fine, let's see what this development is. Ayako says. Izuku nods and starts to let some of his power flow into the circle. It starts to glow, and then they hear a voice. Was it you who summoned me? Ha, human, this hasn't happened since my first master. The voice says, and then a mist appears and starts to take shape. You humans, how were you able to summon me? The tiger says. I don't know what my power told me to. Izuku replies. Your power? The tiger asks. Yes, me. Koro says, and his head appears. Why did you tell him to summon me? I felt that your power would help young Izuku here. Koro says. The boy must prove himself worthy. The tiger says. How do I do that? Izuku says. Place your hand on my head and let your power flow into me. The tiger says. Okay. Izuku says and puts his hand on the tiger's head and starts to get overwhelmed. Izuku, stop. Momo says. Huh? Izuku says and looks down to see the tiger knocked out. I guess I went overboard. Izuku says while rubbing the back of his head. Master, I swear my loyalty to you to assist you in any way I can. The tiger says. Also, to complete our contract you must give me a name. The tiger says. A name? Tell me, you said that there was a human before me that summoned you. What name did he give you? Izuku says. My first master gave me the name Kahaku. The tiger says. Then that's the name I'll give you in memory of your first master. Thank you, Master Izuku. Kahaku says. Master, I would like to stay by your side if possible. Kahaku says thanks, but a full-grown tiger following me around is going to cause panic. Izuku says. Give me a moment. Kahaku says, and in a second a small version of Kahaku is there. How's this? Kahaku says, but before Izuku can respond they all hear so cute. Momo and Ayako say in unison and run to Kahaku. Oh no, not again. Thinks to herself. Momo Yaoyorozu is currently in her room looking at the dress that she is going to wear to the party her parents are throwing for her for being admitted to UA through recommendation. I can't believe I let Jiro talk me into wearing this. Why did I tell her that I wanted to impress Zuzu? Wait, Zuzu, where did that come from? Who? I'm kidding, it's a cute name for him. She says to herself, not noticing that Kahaku had entered her room. So you like Master, Lady Yaoyorozu? Kahaku asks with a smirk on her face. Have you heard all that? She says, blushing all the shades of red, some that have never been seen before. Oh yeah. Kahaku says with a nod and a smirk. Momo sits on her bed and looks down at the floor. Please don't tell him. She says. I won't, trust me, this isn't the first time I have been through this. Kahaku says. Thanks, Kahaku. Momo says while picking her up and hugs her a little. So how long have you loved him? Kahaku asks. Well, as you know, he saved me and parents when he was 8 years old, and I always thought that he was kind of cute. Then, as time passed, I started to get feelings that I couldn't explain, so I asked a friend of mine and she told me that I'm in love with him, so I guess you can say I have always loved him. Momo says and looks down at Kahaku and smiles. So are you going to confess to him soon? Kahaku asks, getting free of Momo's grasp and lay down on her bed. What's confess? I don't think I can do that, I'm not even sure he feels the same way. Momo says. Kahaku thinks to herself, you can't just not do something because you're not sure how the other person may or may not feel, you have to at least try. Kahaku says. I guess you're right. Momo says and gets up and looks at the clock. That's the time, the party is in 2 hours, I have to shower, do my hair, makeup, and get dressed. She says and starts to walk to her bathroom, but stops. If I'm just finding out how late it is, Izuku mustn't be ready either, I'll go check on him. Momo says and runs out of her room. Kahaku only smirks, things are about to get interesting. She thinks to herself. Momo makes her way to the gym in her manor and sees that the door is slightly open and hears him counting. 169,170,171. Of course he's working out, well he won't stop unless someone tells him he has to get ready. Momo thinks to herself and opens the door the rest of the way. Hey Izuku is all she can say as she just stares at Izuku doing pull-ups shirtless. She couldn't help but get a slight nosebleed at the sight. Izuku looks over to her and drops down, gets his hoodie, and walks over to her. "May I help you, Momo?" Izuku says and stands in front of her with a smile. "Well, you see, it's 2 hours until the party, so I wanted to make sure you were ready." Momo says, trying not to stare. "Really?" Izuku says and looks at his phone. "Shot, you're right, thanks for telling me, I'm going to shower," he says and runs out of the gym and goes to his room. Momo runs to her room and looks at Kahaku smirking. "Why, you knew, didn't you?" Momo asks Kahaku. Kahaku just whistles. "I don't know what you're talking about," Kahaku says and curls up into a ball and starts to go to sleep. Momo walks into her bathroom and strips down and walks into her shower and lets the hot water hit her body. "His body is just so godly, I want him to hold me, I just want him," she thinks to herself. She gets out, dries herself off, brushes her hair, does her makeup, and gets dressed in her dress. A red sweetheart cut dress with a silver necklace. "I hope Izuku likes it," Momo says and giggles as she twirls around in the three-way mirror. "I really want to show it to him right now, but I think it would be better to surprise him. I hope he wears the tux I got him." Soon her phone starts to ring. She walks over to it and picks it up. "Hey Momo, what's up? You ready to blow Izuku's socks off?" Jiro asks, laughing. Momo gets a massive blush remembering what happened a short while ago when Izuku made her get a nosebleed. "Why, yeah, I think so. I mean, he blew my socks off earlier." "Shot, did I just say that?" Momo asks and facepalms. Jiro smirks. "Yeah, you did, so what happened?" "Well, when I went to go check on Izuku to make sure he knew to get ready, I walked in on him working out shirtless, and his body was just godly. His pecs, his soldiers, his abs looked like you could sharpen titanium on them, and the way the sweat ran down his body, it looked like his body was carved out with a water jet. I just wanted to feel those muscles for myself," Momo says, rubbing her legs together. Someone sounds excited. "Well, I just wanted to let you know that I'm on my way to your place. I'm going to change there and maybe try some matchmaking magic to see if you two finally get together," Jiro says. "Oh, okay, I can't wait to introduce you to someone," Momo says. "Wait, what do you mean by that?" Jiro says, sounding a little nervous. "You'll see, bye," Momo says and hangs up. "Mo, great, she hung up. I hope she isn't planning payback," Jiro says. Time skips 45 minutes until the party. Jiro meets Kahaku. Momo says, holding Kahaku in her arms, showing her to Jiro. Jiro looks at Kahaku for a while. "Jiro, you okay?" Momo asks as Jiro just stares at Kahaku. "So cute," Jiro says and snatches Kahaku out of Momo's arms and hugs her tight, making her turn blue and tapping on Jiro's arm. This is starting to feel way slimmer than the last time. Kahaku thinks to herself as she is being choked. "Jiro, I think you should let go." Kahaku looks like she is going to pass out. "Sorry," Jiro says and lets go. "So where did she come from?" Jiro asks. "From Izuku, it's due to his power growing stronger," Momo says. "We have 45 minutes until the party starts, let the girl talk," Jiro says and jumps on Momo's bed with Kahaku in her arms. "Calm down, Momo, I'm sure Izuku will love how lovely you look," Jiro says, trying to calm down a pacing Momo in the hallway. "Do you really mean it?" Momo asks with sparkles in her eyes and looks at Jiro with a smile. "Trust me, he will." Jiro says, "I bet you're hoping he wears that suit you got him, maybe you can dance with him and feel his back muscles," Jiro says with a smirk. Momo blushes madly. And what is that supposed to mean?" she asks, pouting. "You know what I mean. Anyway, let's go, it's time," Jiro says and starts walking into the ballroom, followed by Momo, who is holding Kahaku. "Say, Jiro, do you think Zuzu likes me?" Momo asks. "Zuzu, not even dating and has a nickname already?" Jiro asks, only to look to her side to see a blushing Momo. "You two are so dense. He likes you, but he keeps his feelings hidden because he thinks you won't fall for him, and you like him, but you can't bring yourself to show it because you don't think he likes you," Jiro thinks to herself. "I don't know, you just have to see," Jiro says as they stop at the ballroom doors. "Ready to go in?" Jiro asks and Momo nods. When they walk in, Momo's parents walk over to them and smile when they see how lovely their daughter looks. "Momo, our daughter, you look absolutely lovely. Did Jiro help you pick this?" Ayako asks. "Thank you, and yes, mother," Momo says. "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Yaoyorozu," Jiro says, waving her hand. "Hello, Jiro, how are you?" Noritashi asks. "I'm fine, sir, how are you?" Jiro asks. "I'm good as well, thank you for asking," Noritashi says. "Mother, father, have you seen Izuku? I sent him ahead of us since I wanted to talk with Jiro alone," Momo says. "Yes, he is talking to the band," Ayako says. She then whispers in Momo's ear, "Is that why you wore that dress and sent him ahead?" Momo can only blush. "Please excuse my mother, father," Momo says to give Kahaku to Jiro before running to Izuku, and Jiro stays behind. You caught on, didn't you? Jiro asks, and Ayako smirks. Since the moment you girls walked in. With Izuku and Momo. Hey Izuku. Momo says once she reaches him and just stares at him as a small blush and a smile aspires on her face. So, you wore the tux I got you? She asks. Oh, hey Momo, yeah I did, I really do like it, thanks again for getting it. Izuku says and looks at Momo, and he also gets a small blush on his face. Oh my gosh, he or she looks so hot. They both think at the same time. Izuku is wearing a dark green tux with a black shirt, white tie, and green tux pants. Soon the band starts playing music. Izuku looks at Momo as he rubs the back of his head. Lady Yaoyorozu, may I have this dance? Izuku asks and holds out his hand and waits for Momo to take it. Yes, of course. Momo says and takes his hand as they walk onto the floor and start to waltz. You have gotten better over the years, Izuku. Momo says as Izuku spins her. Thank you, and you are still as elegant as ever, my lady. Izuku says and Momo blushes. Thank you for the compliment. Momo says after she finishes the spin and goes back to the dance and feels Izuku's back muscles. His back feels so toned. She thinks to herself and smiles. Izuku smiles back. You know you have a lovely smile. He says and blushes. Momo blushes as well. Thank you. She says. You're welcome. He says. Izuku then feels a tap on his shoulder and sees a dual-colored haired boy with dual-colored eyes and a scar on his face. May I cut in? He asks. Of course. Izuku says and starts to walk away but is stopped by the boy. A dog like you should remember his place under his master's feet, you're her bodyguard and nothing more, he whispers. Yes of course sir, enjoy the party. Izuku says and walks away. Time skip the last dance song of the night. Izuku walks up onto the stage and starts speaking to get everyone's attention. Hello, and good evening to all. On behalf of the Yaoyorozu family, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming to tonight's party. He says. Now that the party is coming to a close, I would like to sing a song that my master asked me to write for his lovely wife. Izuku says, and then there are claps. Izuku takes a few deep breaths and then looks at the band and nods. The band starts to play the beat of the music and Izuku starts to sing. The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts is the here and now. My universe has never been the same, I'm glad you're mine. As Izuku sings, Ayako just looks at Noritashi and smiles with tears of joy in her eyes. You casted a spell on me, you hid like the sky fell on me, and I decided you looked well on me, so let's go somewhere no one else can see you, and me. Momo just looks at Izuku as he sings and just focuses on him. He looks to be really enjoying himself. I wish he would write a song for me. She thinks to herself. Turn the lights out now I'll take you by the hand, offer you another dance it if you can you spend a little time is slipping away from us, so stay with me, I can make you glad you're mine. As Izuku sings certain lyrics, the lights all go out except the lights on the stage and a spotlight on Ayako and Noritashi as they dance. The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts is the here and now. My universe has never been the same. I'm glad you're mine, I'm glad you're mine. I'm glad you're mine, so glad you're mine, I'm glad you're mine, I'm glad you're mine. The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts is the here and now. My universe has never been the same. I'm glad you're mine, I'm glad you're mine, I'm glad you're mine. Izuku says and finishes singing, and everyone claps, and he and the band take a bow. Time skip after the party. Thank you Nori, thank you Izuku, that song was just wonderful. Ayako says, hugging them both. You're welcome Ayako mistress. They both say. She lets them go and kisses Noritashi and takes him by his hand out of the ballroom. Izuku walks out to the balcony, looks up at the sky, and sighs. Momo walks out and sees that he is trying to process something. She wanted to ask him what was wrong during the party, but he told her not to worry and just enjoy her party. Hey Izuku, what's wrong? You have been acting weird ever since that boy came and asked to dance with me. Momo says as she walks up to Izuku and stands next to him. It's nothing, my lady. He says and continues to look at the sky. Okay, something is wrong, he has been calling me my lady ever since the dance. She thinks to herself. Izuku, please tell me what's wrong. She says, sounding worried. It's nothing, my lady. He says, aging. I hate to do this, but you leave me no choice, Izuku Midoriya, I order you to tell me what's wrong. Momo says. Izuku looks at her and takes a deep breath. That kid told me that a dog like me should remember my place under my master's feet, that I'm your bodyguard and nothing more. Izuku finally says. Momo looks furious. He said what? She yells and starts to make a punching bag with Todoroki's face on it. Momo put her hands on Izuku's shoulders. You know he's wrong, you're not just my bodyguard, you're my best friend, and I. She gets cut off when Jiro comes out and taps Momo's shoulder. Hey, I'm headed out, goodbye, and good night you too. Jiro says, see you later. They say. Thanks Momo, but I think we should head inside, it's late and we should get to bed. Izuku says as he takes Momo by the hand and walks inside with her. I'm skipping Izuku's room. Izuku walks into his room after escorting Momo to her room and walks to his bed and is about to sit down when he sees an envelope with his name on it. He grabs it and opens it up and sees a letter. Meet me at the Gaba Municipal Beach at 5:30 am tomorrow. Am? Who's Am, All Might? Izuku says. Beep beep beep. Izuku's alarm goes off at 4 in the morning so he can go meet All Might. Izuku groans. I can't believe he asked me to meet him today, I barely got any sleep. Izuku says as he shuts off his alarm and sits up. Well, I might as well brush my teeth so I can jog there and try to wake up. Izuku says as he gets up and brushes his teeth. When he walks out of the bathroom he puts on his socks and green sneakers and walks out of the manor and makes his way to the gate. He starts to stretch a little and then starts his jog to Gaba Municipal Beach. I swear he better have a good reason for this or this morning's news will be all night breaks into Yaoyorozu Manor. Izuku thinks to himself. Time skipped DMB. It's 6:30 and he isn't here yet. I hate when people waste my time. I remember when this place used to be so clean. I think it would be nice if I cleaned this place up. Izuku says to himself and starts to clean up the beach. An hour later a frail-looking man appears on the beach and sees Izuku cleaning. He stayed here and actually started cleaning it. I'm sure he will be the right one. I hope he doesn't see me as a coward for hiding and not helping yesterday. The man thinks to himself and starts to walk over to Izuku and suddenly a green spirit lands only an inch in front of his feet. The man yells and falls on his butt. Izuku runs over to him. I'm so sorry, my job as a bodyguard keeps me on edge a lot, it's hard to turn it off, All Might. Izuku says and bows apologizing to the man and reaches his hand to help him up. Well, it's so how did you know it was me, All Might still in his skinny form says. I picked up your scent from the letter you left in my room, smart thinking you had me at a disadvantage yesterday, lots of people wearing cologne and perfume and the smell of all the food in the air messes with my enhanced smell. Izuku says and helps All Might up. Please don't call me by my hero name when I look like this, my name is Toshinori Yagi. Toshinori says. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku says. Alright Toshinori, explain why you wanted me to meet you here and it better be good or I'm calling the cops and telling them you broke into the Yaoyorozu Manor. Izuku says with a serious cold tone that sends shivers down the spine of Toshinori. Alright kid, I'll explain. He says and transforms into his All Might form. Well, you see, I want you to be my successor and take my quirk. All Might says. Is it even possible to pass a quirk down without genetics? Izuku asks. Yes it is, you see my quirk is a combination of two quirks, one that stocks piles of energy and it lets you send that to your body and gives you super strength and speed, and a quirk that lets you give quirks to other people. Its name is One for All. If you accept this you can't tell anyone about this. All Might says. Izuku looks at All Might and thinks for a few seconds before speaking. So if I say yes to you I can't tell anyone about this? Izuku asks. Yes. All Might says and looks at Izuku with a slightly confused face. Izuku sighs, sorry, All Might, no deal. Izuku says and starts to clean the aging beach. What way? All Might be confused. I don't keep secrets from my lady and her family. I have spent years building trust with them and I won't risk losing it. I'm sorry. Izuku says. This kid, he wants to tell his girlfriend and her family, what's next, his parents, I guess I'll have to tell them, I'm really short on time. All Might think to himself. Alright kid, you win, we can tell your girlfriend and her family and your parents if you want. All Might be said. Izuku blushes when All Might calls Momo his girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend, I'm her bodyguard, that's why I call her my lady, and I don't have parents. My dad died when I was very young according to my mom, and my mom died in a villain attack when I was 8. Izuku says as he cleans the beach. I'm sorry my boy. Who do you live with? All Might ask. I live with my lady and her family. Izuku says. So I'm guessing the reason you asked me here is to clean this beach or something like that, right? Izuku says. Yes my boy, also would you mind taking off your shirt for me? All Might ask. Why? Izuku, looking at All Might, confessed. I want to see the shape your body is in so you can determine how much work we need to do. All Might be said. Okay, due to my job I have to be fit. Izuku says and takes off his shirt. Impressive my boy, I say you could use 75% of One for All. All Might be said. Really 75%? Izuku asks. Yes my boy, now let's get going so we can tell your girlfriend and get family about this. All Might say with a big smile on his face. She's not my girlfriend. Izuku yells and growls a bit. Say my boy, what's your quirk? All Might ask. It's not a quirk, it's an ancient power that has been dormant for thousands of years until it found me. Izuku says as he puts his shirt on. Let's get going. All Might, you can follow me in your car, I'll jog there. Izuku says and starts to climb the stairs. I'm skip Yaoyorozu Manor. Izuku walks into the manor and is immediately tackled to the floor by Momo. Izuku Midoriya, where were you? Momo asks, pouting, not noticing the position they are in. I went for a jog to Dagaba Municipal Beach. Says, trying to recover from the tackle. Dagaba. That's a 20k round trip. Momo yells in shock. Momo's parents walk to the main door when they hear the commotion, followed by Kahaku. Ayako smirks when she sees Momo on top of Izuku and says, my mom, you certainly work fast. Izuku blushes and looks away while mom looks at her confused, then she looks down at Izuku and then she realizes the position there and blushes madly and gets off of him quickly. I'm sorry Izuku. Momo says and tries to compose herself. Izuku gets up from the floor and blushes as well. It's okay Momo, anyway there's someone waiting to talk to all of us about something, he is outside waiting at the gate. Izuku says. Really, who is it? Ayako asks. I don't think you would believe me if I told you, so why don't we go see him? Izuku says. Are you sure it's safe? Noritashi asos. Yes master, I wouldn't lead anyone that would pose a threat to Momo or the Yaoyorozu family. Izuku says and opens the door and walks outside. Are you guys coming? Izuku asks. They follow Izuku to the gate and they almost come unhinged when they see who is at the gate. Well hello there Yaoyorozu family. All Might say and wave his hand. All Might. The entire Yaoyorozu family says in unison. Scene change. Yaoyorozu Manor, living room. What do we owe the pleasure of having the #1 hero in our home today? Ayako asks as she takes a sip of her tea. Well you see, I saw young Midoriya's actions yesterday and was really surprised by them, and what he said to the heroes was harsh but had truth to it. All Might be said. I told them the truth. I don't care if it was harsh. Izuku says and takes a sip from his tea as well. So All Might ready to tell them? Izuku asks. Tell us what? Momo asks, a little nervous, and pets Kahaku as she lays in her lap. Well you see, I want young Midoriya to be my successor and take my quirk. All Might say, but he is just met with confused looks. My quirk is a combination of two quirks, one that stocks piles of energy and it lets you send that to your body and gives you super strength and speed, and a quirk that lets you give quirks to other people. Its name is One for All. All Might says. Wow, a quirk that can be passed down, that's incredible. Noritoshi says. Yes, it is. When I told young Midoriya here that if he accepted it he couldn't tell anyone, he rejected and said he doesn't keep secrets from his lady and her family. All Might say. I have to ask you as well to keep it a secret and not tell anyone, regardless if Izuku accepts it or not. All Might be said. Agreed. They all say. So do you think I should do it? Izuku asks. It's your decision Izuku, we will support you no matter what you pick. Ayako says. I agree with Ayako. Noritoshi says. What about you Momo? Izuku asks. Well I think you should do it, you said that the only reason you're taking the entrance exam is to push yourself to your own limits to see how well you can protect me from all sorts of things, and I think this would be a great way to do it. Momo says. Izuku looks at her and smiles. Thanks for that Momo. He says as he pats her head and Momo gets a light pink blush on her face. And no problem Izuku. She says. Alright All Might, I accept. Izuku says with a smile. That is excellent my boy. All Might say, extremely happy. All Might pluck a hair from his head and hold it out to Izuku. Eat this. All Might says. What, why? Everyone minus All Might say in unison. In order to get my quirk, it must be passed through DNA. All Might be said. Fine. Izuku says with a disgusted face and grabs the hair. Well down the hatch. Izuku says and swallows the hair and then drinks his tea. I don't feel any different. Izuku says. Give it about 3 to 4 hours so it can pass through your system. All Might say and stand up. Thank you for hosting me, now if you'll excuse me I have to get going. All Might say and bows slightly before making his way out of the manor. Once All Might leaves, Momo hits Izuku on the back of his head. You don't keep secrets from us, then explain yesterday. Momo yells at Izuku. Izuku rubs the back of his head. I didn't want you to be angry, sad, or worry about me yesterday, it was your party and you deserve to enjoy it. Izuku says. What happened yesterday? Ayako and Noritashi asks. Well you see, a kid with dual-colored hair and eyes with a scar on his face told me that a dog like me should remember my place under my master's feet, that I'm Momo's bodyguard and nothing more. Izuku says. Ayako and Noritoshi are shocked. Wow, I can see why you didn't want to tell Momo. Noritoshi says. Izuku, you know that's not true, right? Ayako says. Yeah, I know, Momo said that I'm also her best friend. Izuku says. Is that all she said? Ayako asks. Yes, why? Izuku asks. No reason. Momo blurts out and is blushing a little and laughing. Izuku is currently at the Gaba Municipal Beach. It's been 5 months since he got one for all. He is currently cleaning up the beach with Ofa and Spirit. Wow, this is incredible. I feel like Ofa and Spirit are becoming one. Izuku says. I know what you mean and I feel it as well. Koro says. Do you think that you could be merging with it and actually becoming a Quirk? Izuku asks. I think so. Koro says. Well, let's hope so, because if that does happen it would be so cool. Izuku says. Yes, cool indeed. Koro says. Young Midoriya. All Might calls out to Izuku as he walks onto the beach. What is it, All Might? Izuku asks and starts to walk over to him. I want to talk to you about your lady Momo. All Might says and sits on one of the stairs. So, you figured out that I like her? Izuku asks and sits next to him while rubbing the back of his head. It wasn't that hard to figure out the way you talk about her and how much you blush when I call her your girlfriend. All Might says. I really do like her, All Might, but I doubt she will ever fall for someone like me. I can't give her the things she's used to, she deserves someone better. Besides, I made a promise that if her happiness comes at the cost of mine, I won't get in the way. Izuku says. You would give up on your love for her to keep her happy with the man she chooses? All Might asks. Yeah, of course, her happiness means everything to me. Izuku says. And what if she chooses you because she feels the same way? All Might asks. Then I'll be very happy and continue to protect her as my girlfriend and maybe someday my wife. Izuku says and gets up from the step he's sitting on. Well, I have to get back to cleaning, All Might. Izuku says and runs off and continues to clean the beach. My boy, you need to confess to her soon or risk losing her forever, and I think I know just how to help you in that. All Might thinks to himself and smiles. Time skips 1 month before the entrance exams. Izuku has 100% control of Ofa and has started to come up with combined moves. He also finished cleaning the beach last month. He also keeps a small amount of spirit and Ofa power activated at all times without having green and black lightning dancing around him. He has also helped Momo with her quirk to make sure she is ready for anything UA might throw at them. He has also begun to teach Momo some basic hand-to-hand combat techniques. For the same reason, he also tried to help her to make quick decisions about making things and to concentrate when she is under attacker stress so she can make things the situation calls for. In return, Momo has been touting him on all subjects so he can be prepared for the written portion of the test. Although Momo isn't too worried about that, her and Izuku have always been the top 2 students in their middle school tests since their first year, but they know better than to get too cocky. Momo also studies herself so she can keep her grades up when she gets into the UA. Over the 9 months the two have become even closer. They even have picnics in the garden for the manor. Ayako teased Momo every time she insisted on making the food for her and Izuku's picnics. One time she told Momo, "Momo, are you trying to impress your future husband with your cooking skills? There's a saying, the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach." And all that did was cause Momo to blush a very dark shade of red and blow steam out of ears like a chimney. Izuku has even invited All Might over to the manor at the request of Noritoshi and Ayako from time to time, and today is no different. Currently Momo and Izuku are having a sparring match in the dojo of the manor while the 3 adults are in the living room. So All Might, has Izuku said anything about having a crush on anyone? Ayako asks. All Might chokes on the tea he's drinking. I'll take that as a yes, and I bet we can guess who it is. Noritoshi says. Our daughter Momo. Noritoshi and Ayako speak in unison. Are you too upset that he has feelings for your daughter? All Might asks. No, we have known for a while that they both like each other, but they are scared to admit it. Ayako says. Well, young Midoriya did tell me something along that line. All Might says. They are both going to the UA and the school knows Izuku's status already, so they will be in the same class. I wish there was a way we could get them together. Ayako says. Ayako, dear, I agree with you, but if we push them we might end up causing more harm than good. Noritoshi says. I agree with you, Mr. Yaoyorozu. Young Midoriya told me that if he had to give up his feelings for young Yaoyorozu so she could be happy, he would do it with no hesitation. All Might says. So he's willing to give up his own happiness so Momo can be happy. He certainly is a selfless young man. Ayako says. So you want to get them together but not push them? All Might says. Yes, why, do you have something in mind? Noritoshi asks. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but if it's for the kids' happiness, what the heck, I'll be teaching at UA starting this year, I'll be teaching heroics, so just leave it to me. I have the perfect plan, is there anything else I should know? All Might asks. Well, when we had a party a few months ago to celebrate Momo getting into the UA. On recommendation, there was this boy with dual-colored hair and eyes with a scar on his face. He told Izuku that a dog like him should remember his place under his master's feet, that he's Momo's bodyguard and nothing more. Ayako says. Interesting, well I think I have all the information I need, now once school starts I'll put the plan into action. All Might says. We look forward to its success. Ayako says. At that moment Izuku and Momo walk into the living room. The success of what? They ask. Nothing. The adults say in unison. It's the morning of the UA in the entrance exam. Izuku has just woken up. He gets dressed in his middle school uniform along with green sneakers and packs his athletic shorts and shirt in his book bag and heads downstairs. When he gets downstairs he sees Momo, Ayako, Noritashi and Jack at the bottom of the stairs. Good morning Izuku. They all say in unison. Good morning all, I don't mean to sound rude, but why are all of you up so early? Izuku asks. We all want to wish you luck Izuku. Momo says and smiles. It's true, we all wish you the best. Noritashi says and smiles. Thank you all, well I'm going to eat some breakfast and head out. Izuku says. Wait Izuku, I kind of already made breakfast for you. Momo says and blushes a little. Thanks Momo, I'm sure it's delicious. Izuku says and pats her head. Momo blushes more, smiles and laughs a little all at the same time. You better go eat before your food gets cold, Izuku. Momo says and quickly runs off a blushing mess. The remaining people think at the same time. After breakfast Izuku walks outside and gets on the motorcycle that he found while cleaning the beach and has been fixing up. A green Kawasaki Ninja. He drives off to UA and parks in a nearby parking lot and walks to the school. As he walks through the school gates he sees that there's a girl about to fall, but she is caught by a familiar looking boy with ash blonde hair. Sees them walk into the building, he gets a packet of information and reads it while he waits for the test proctor to come in and hand out the written exam. After the written part of the exam Izuku walks out and sits under a tree in the school garden and starts to eat the lunch Momo made for him. Man, this is delicious, I need to thank Mono again once I get home. He says and continues to eat. He turns and sees someone walking towards him. Hey Jiro, how are you? Izuku asks. I'm good, so did Momo make that for you? She asks to point to the bento box. Yeah she did, she even made breakfast for me and called me Zuzu for some reason. He says and blushes. Holy crap Momo, you called him Zuzu, good for you girl. Jiro thinks to herself. Well if she did all that she must really want you to pass. Hey they're heading back in, it must be time for the explanation for the practical exam. Jiro says and starts to walk back with Izuku. Good luck. They say to each other. Practical exam expectation. Izuku has just finished reading the part of the packet he got earlier explaining the practical exams and is currently looking around the lecture hall and is making notes of security measures, and thanks to his night vision he can see clearly and can see that there are a bunch of kids really not paying attention. Alright little listeners, when you are out there you will face 3 robots, they range from 1 point all the way to 3 points. Present Mick says. Excuse me sir, I have a question. A boy with blue hair and glasses shouts and stands up. Oh great, a guy that thinks he knows everything. Izuku thinks to himself. Yes, examine XXXXX. Present Mick says and looks at the kid. You said that there were 3 robots, but the flyer shows 4, if this is a mistake on UA material you should be ashamed. He says while chopping his hand. Present Mick is about to speak but gets cut off by Izuku. Oh Blue Droid, did you read the flyer? Izuku asks as the spotlight hits him. A lot of girls look at Izuku and blush. OMG, he's so hot. They all think. Of course as I did, it says there are 4 robots. The Bluebird says. Izuku sighs, since you obviously forgot how to read I'll read it for you, please look at it as I read it and follow along. Izuku said. Hello UA examines, today you will be taking part in the practical part of the UA entrance exam. There are 3 robots that you will be facing to earn villain points. They range from 1 point to 3 points, but please do be aware that there is a 4th robot that can't be defeated. This robot is worth 0 points. If you encounter this robot, flee on sight. Izuku reads the paper and looks at the blue door that is pale as a sheet of paper. I think he needs a reboot. Izuku says and gets laughs from everyone in the room. Mock City B. Izuku is currently starting to get ready for the exam when he sees a girl looking really nervous. He is about to walk over to her when he feels a hand on his shoulder and looks back to see the Bluebird. If you're going to distract her then leave. He says. Wow, you're so quick to jump to conclusions, aren't you a bludroid? I wasn't going to distract her, she is obviously nervous, so I was going to go offer a word of encouragement, and I still plan to. Now if you will excuse me, I'm going to talk to her. He says and walks over to the girl. Hey, are you okay? Izuku asks the girl. She looks over at him and blushes a little. Yeah, I'm fine, just a little nervous to be honest. She says. Relax and clear your mind, try to focus on the positive. He says. She nods and does as he says. Better? He asks. Thank you very much. You're welcome, by the way my name is Izuku Midoriya. He says. My name is. She gets cut off when the doors of the city open and Izuku rushes in and gets 50 points after releasing a comb of Ofa and Spirit Force to a group of robots. The other students just stood there confused. What are you waiting for? There are no countdowns in real life and that kid already has 75 points, better catch up. Present Mick says. At his words the students quickly run into the city and start to get points. Izuku destroys robots and saves some students that start to get overwhelmed because they get cocky. Observation room. This year's batch is quite amazing. Midnight says. Agreed, they do seem to be exceptionally gifted. Eraserhead says. Yes, does anyone in particular catch your eye? Nezu the unknown animal asks. Yes, that boy with the green hair. Midnight says, licking her lips and looking at Izuku like he's a piece of Kobe strip steak. It's a cut of meat that goes for up to $350 United States dollars. Yes, his name is Izuku Midoriya, he is a bodyguard for a Momo Yaoyorozu that got in through recommendation. That's odd. Vlad King says as he reads Izuku's profile off a tablet. What is Vald? Spine asks. Well, the kid has a recommendation, but he's taking the entrance exams. Vald says. Does it say why in his profile? Ectoplasm asks. Yeah, I'll read it. It says I have turned down my recommendation because how can I call myself a bodyguard if I don't push myself to the limits? I feel that the practical part of the exam will allow me to do just that, then I can be sure I can protect not only my lady and the family I serve, but everyone once I become a hero. Vault says. That's pretty selfless of him, wanting to prove to everyone that he didn't just get in due to his job, but of his own accord. Midnight says. How many points does he have? Cementus asks. Eraserhead looks up and is shocked. 850 combined. He says 850, how? Everyone expects All Might to ask for shock. I think he knows. Vald says and points to All Might. Explain. Nezu says. Well, you see, he's my successor and he also has his own quirk. I believe that they somehow combined or are combining and that is the result. That remains me. He asked me if he can bring an animal that is part of his quirk to school. It's small little thing that helps him guard young Yaoyorozu. All Might says. I see. Well, he does seem to have quite a good handle on both quirks and I don't see a problem with him bringing the animal to school as long as it doesn't attack the students. Nezu says. You can't be serious. Eraserhead says. I think you might change your mind when you see Eraser. All Might says. Why's that? Eraserhead asks. You'll see. All Might says. Well, I think it's time for that. Nezu says and everyone nods in agreement. Nezu presses a big red button with a giant 0 on it. It's time for the real test. He says. Back with Izuku. Izuku, I think you're overdoing it. Koro says. I can't stop, Koro, I have to keep on going to show everyone what I can do to make sure I can protect the love of my life. Izuku says. You really like her, don't you? Koro asks. Yeah, I do. I'll give my life to protect her, not because it's my job, but because I love her. Izuku says. All of a sudden the ground starts to shake and there are explosions and students running. Run for your lives. An exam yells. Izuku looks around and sees the 0-pointers. He is about to run when he sees the girl from before trapped under some debris and the robots aren't stopping. Izuku starts to run to her, ignoring the calls of the others to stop. He gets there and sees that she is passed out. Damn it. He says and lifts the debris off of her and takes her a safe distance away and runs back to the 0-pointer. He lets the Koro's spirit body cloak him and activates 25% of Ofa and sends 75% of spirit to his arms and 25% to his legs. He jumps up and then punches the 0-pointer and sends it crashing into the others, and before they explode in a big fireball, he lets out a medium roar to send and keep the flames back. He lands on the ground safely and leaves a crater 5 feet deep and gets out of it. And sees everyone looking at him. What? He asks. Then that's time. Present Mick says, shocked. Izuku walks over to the girl and sees she is starting to wake up. Oh my, is anyone hurt? An elderly lady asks. Hey, it's Recovery Girl. An exam says. Yes, her Recovery Girl. Izuku says and points to the unconscious girl. But what about you? Have cuts all over your body. She says. Don't worry, my quirk allows me to speed up the recovery time in my own body. If you will excuse me, I have to get going. Izuku says and walks off. Yaoyorozu Manor. Izuku walks through the door and all of his cuts have healed and he walks into the living room and sees everyone there. Hello everyone, I'm back. Izuku says. Welcome home Izuku, how was the exam? Momo asks. It went well. I think I passed. If you will excuse me, I'm going to go shower as soon as I can start my day. Izuku walks to his room. Time skips 2 weeks after the entrance exam. Momo and Izuku are sitting in the living room with their own letters in their hands. I'll go first. Momo says and opens her letter and a disc falls out and a hologram comes on and a weird looking animal starts to talk. Momo Yaoyorozu, I would like to congratulate you for getting into UA through recommendation. Your class will be 1A. I wish you luck on your studies here at UA and remember to always go plus ultra. Nezu says and then the hologram cuts off. Okay, my turn. Izuku says and he opens his letter and a disc falls out and a hologram starts playing and a woman in a skin-tight white suit starts to talk all seductively. Hello Izuku Midoriya, I would like to congratulate you on passing your written exam with flying colors and you also passed your particle exam with a combined score of 2,500, the highest in US history. You scored 1,500 villain points for defeating the robots. I'm sure you're asking what about the other 1,000 points. Well, those were rescue points you got for saving students. Welcome to your Hero Academia. Your class is 1A and the principal says you can bring the animal. Just make sure it doesn't attack the students. I can't wait to see you and see what type of student you'll be. Midnight says and licks her lips and the hologram shuts off. Momo looks at Izuku who is sweating bullets. I think I'm going to need my own bodyguard at UA. Izuku sounds scared and Momo just laughs and hugs him. Well, Kahaku will be there and we are in the same class. I'm so happy Zuzu. Momo says and then realizes what she said and blushes. I mean Izuku. She says laughing nervously. Momo, you can call me Zuzu, I don't mind, but only if I can call you a nickname too. Okay, what's my nickname? Momo asks Creator, because of your quirk, plus I think it will make a great hero name. Izuku says. Izuku woke up early today and went for a quick run around the perimeter of the manor. He is currently in the kitchen making breakfast for himself and the Yaoyorozu family. God Izuku, can you let me do my job? I swear between you and Lady Yaoyorozu I might be out of a job. The chef says as he looks at Izuku making breakfast. I'm sorry Rin, but I want to do this to pay her back for making me that lunch and since I was already making breakfast for us, I decided to make some for the master and mistress. Izuku says and puts the breakfast on the plates and sets them on the table. Everyone comes downstairs and sees the food set on the table and he bows to them. Good morning, master, mistress, and my lady. He says and straightens up from his bow. Wow Izuku, did you make this? Momo asks. Yeah, I decided to make breakfast for you since you made me lunch for the entrance exam and since I was at it, I decided to make breakfast for everyone. Izuku says and motions for everyone to sit. They all sit at the table and start to eat. Wow Izuku, this is really good, I think you could give Rin a run for his money. Ayako says and continues to eat. She's right, this is amazing, the girl that marries you will be in for quite a treat. Noritashi says with a smile and glances over at Momo. Momo is a blushing mess, her mind filled with her and Izuku married and her and Izuku doing other things. No bad Momo, don't think such lewd thoughts, even though you've done it before. Momo thinks to herself. Thank you for all the kind words, I combined the lessons I got from Rin and what I learned from my mom before she died. Izuku says and eats his food. Oh, the anniversary of her death just passed, right? Momo asks. Izuku just nods and continues to eat his food. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have bought it up. Momo says and looks down. Izuku pats her head. It's okay, Momo, I just miss her, that's all, but when I'm with you all that pain and loneliness goes away. Izuku says and smiles. Momo just blushes and continues to eat. Scene change outside Yaoyorozu Manor. Ayako, Izuku and Momo holding Kahaku in her arms are waiting in the front of the manor for Noritashi. Mother, what is this gift you two got Izuku for getting into UA? Momo asks. I don't think I deserve a gift for getting into UA. Izuku says. Yes, you do, you got the highest score in US history, 2,500. Kahaku says. Kahaku is right Zuzu, that was amazing, I bet when our classmates hear about your score, they will be envious of you. Momo says and smiles. Thanks Creator. Izuku says and smiles. My, are you too sure you're not a couple calling each other nicknames like Zuzu and Creator? Ayako asks. They just blush and Kahaku and Ayako just laugh. They all hear a car horn and look at the direction it came from. Is that father? Momo asks. Yeah, a dark green Chevy Stingray Corvette. Ayako says as the car pulls up in front of them. Noritashi steps out and tosses a set of keys to Izuku. Master, is that what I think it is? Izuku asks as he catches the keys. If you think it's your gift for getting into UA, then yes. Noritashi says. Thank you, master, are you sure that I deserve this? Izuku says. Yes, you do, I know you have a bike, but I don't think the Kahaku wants to go flying off of it, and we got you a parking pass so you can park in the teacher's parking lot. Noritashi says. Now off you go or you're going to be late. Ayako says. Thank you, master and mistress, thank you. Izuku says and bow to them. You're welcome now to school. They both say. Izuku smiles and gets in the car and turns it on. Wow, this is amazing. He says and starts to drive off. Scene change, UA hallway in front of class 1A. Izuku, Momo, and Kahaku hear arguing coming from inside, and Izuku smells two familiar scents. Great, those two are here. Izuku says and rolls his eyes. Who are you talking about, Suzu? Momo asks. You remember that blue droid I told you about? Izuku asks and Momo nods. Well, he's in there, and so is that kid from your party, please don't try and kill him once you see him. Izuku says. He called my Zuzu a dog, he should be lucky that I didn't feed him to Kahaku. She says angrily. Let's just go inside and remember Kahaku can't attack the students, that's the only reason she's allowed here. Izuku says and opens the door. Get your feet off the desk, do you have no respect for the students who studied here before you? Blue droid yells at an ash blonde boy. Oh, just who the fuck do you think you are? The blonde yells. I'm Tenya Iida from Saomei Junior High School. Tenya says. Saomei, you think you're better than me, you fucking elite, stay the fuck out of my way or get blown in pieces. The blonde yells. You would threaten a classmate, Tenya says, and then looks over at Izuku, Momo, and Kahaku in the doorway. He runs over to them, Izuku's bodyguard instincts take over, he gets in front of Momo and gets in a fighting stance. Tenya stops when he sees that. Clam down, I won't attack you, I just wanted to apologize to you for my attitude at the entrance exam, my name is. He gets cut off when Izuku puts his hand up. Tenya Iida, I heard the three of us. Izuku says. But there's only two of you. Iida says. No, there's three of us. Kahaku says as Izuku steps aside. You brought an animal to school, Iida says. Iida doesn't jump to conclusions, she's part of a quirk, the principal gave me permission to bring her to school, her name is Kahaku. Izuku says, petting Kahaku. I'm Izuku Midoriya and this is Momo Yaoyorozu. Izuku says. Izuku Midoriya, why does that name sound familiar? The ash blonde thinks to himself. Izuku feels someone about running up behind them, he grabs Momo by the waist and pulls her aside. Momo blushes madly at this and steam is coming out of her ears, and then a girl with brown hair and peppermint blush cheeks tackles Iida. Why did you dodge? All I wanted to do was say thank you for saving me at the entrance exam. She says. Because I didn't want to get tackled, you're welcome, now let's get to our seats. Izuku says as he and Momo walk to their seats and sit down. You're the guy that destroyed those 0-pointers, a kid with yellow hair asks. Yeah, now shut up, you're getting on my nerves. Izuku says. Izuku looks forward and locks eyes with the boy from the party and glares at him. Unknown to both boys, Momo is killing the same dual-haired boy in so many ways in her mind. No one messes with my Zuzu. She yells inwardly. Suddenly a man in a yellow sleeping bag comes into the room. Everyone slowly calms down and sits down. The man exits his sleeping bag with a sigh. It took you all 8 seconds to calm down, disappointing for the hero course. The man says. I'm Shota Izawa, your homeroom teacher, you can call me Izawa-sensei. Izawa says. He then looks at Izuku and Momo. Yaoyorozu and Midoriya, come up here and bring the animal Nezu allowed you to bring to school. He says. Yes, sensei. They say in unison and walk up to him. Sensei, this is Kahaku. Momo says and holds Kahaku out. Hey there, Shota. Kahaku says and waves a paw at him. That thing can talk, one yells. Izawa looks at Kahaku and blushes and grabs her with his capture gear and brings her close to him. You're so cute. Izawa squeals and holds Kahaku in his arms up in the air. What the fuck? All of one to think at the same time and sweet drop. Izawa looks at the class and clears his throat. Anyways, grab one of these, change, and meet me outside. He says and pulls out a gym uniform. All the students grab one and walk to the locker rooms to change while Izawa stays behind and is smothering Kahaku to death. I thought women were bad, but this guy is 30x worse. Kahaku thinks to herself. Boys' locker room. Midoriya, what exactly is your relationship with Yaoyorozu? Iida asks. Izuku turns around to face him as he finishes changing and looks at him and all the other boys and smiles sadistically. Trust me, if either of you were to find that out, you fucked up. He says and walks out, leaving them all confused. What do you think he meant by that? A walking grape asks. I don't know, but did you see the look he had on his face? I think he meant it when he said we don't want to find out. A kid with red spiky hair says. P. Field. Izuku is the first male to walk out of the changing rooms. He sees Momo out there trying to get Izawa to let go of Kahaku. Eraserhead, can you please let Kahaku go and hand her to Lady Yaoyorozu? Izuku says as he walks over to them. Izawa looks at Izuku surprised. Damn kid, you are good. How did you figure out who I was? He asks. I had my suspensions when you came into class, but the way you reacted when you saw Kahaku and the way you used that scarf, it helped confirm my suspension of you. Izuku says with a smirk. You're one smart kid, I might have to keep an eye on you. Izawa says. Careful Izawa-sensei, it sounds like you're going to make me your favorite student. Izuku says with a smile. Shut up, brat. Izawa yells. I'm Skip, everyone shows up. It took you 15 minutes to get changed and come out, we'll have to work on that. Izawa says. Today we will be doing a quirk apprehension test. Izawa says. What? Everyone except Momo and Izuku yell. But what about orientation? Uraraka. Here at UA, teachers have full control of how to teach their classes, so if you want to go to orientation go ahead, but don't even come back to my class. Izawa says. Never mind, I'm okay. Uraraka says. Midoriya, you scored the highest on the entrance exam, what was your best pitch in middle school? 68 meters. Izuku says. No, it wasn't Zuzu, it was almost 90 meters. Momo says, and Izuku facepalms. 90 meters, Wana yells. Midoriya, why did you lie? Izawa asks. I just felt like it. Izuku says. Well, anyways, take this ball and throw it using your quirk. Izawa says. Sure thing. Izuku says and walks over to the circle and activates 100% of Ofa and 100% of Spirit. As the green and black lightning dance around him, the students look in awe. Momo, Kahaku, go find a safe place to hide. Izuku says and Momo quickly runs off to a column and makes straps. She ties herself and Kahaku down. The others look confused. Go for it, Zuzu. Momo yells. Yeah, show them what you can do, Master. Kahaku yells. Izuku smiles and nods and tosses the ball with all his might. He also gets out a medium roar. The wind pressure sends all the students falling into a wall, and Izawa grabs a pole with his scarf and can barely hang on and tries to cover his ears. After what seems like an eternity, everything goes back to normal and everyone is shocked. But power, it's even more powerful than the entrance exam. Iida says. Momo gets lost and walks over to the crater Izuku is in. She stops and gets a nosebleed as she sees the top of Izuku's uniform is gone, showing off his 8-pack and very ripped body. Hey Zuzu, are you okay? Momo asks. Izuku turns around, jumps out of the crater, and looks at Momo. Are you okay? You have a nosebleed, Izuku asks, sounding worried. I'm fine, Zuzu, it's just that you're shirtless. Momo says, and Izuku looks down and sees that his uniform is missing its top. I guess I should have held back. Izuku says and rubs the back of his head. Hey Izawa-sensei, what was my score? Izuku says and looks over at Izawa. I don't know. He says as he is looking at the device that is flashing in between infinity and air. The device soon starts to smoke and spark. Izawa tosses it right before it explodes. I'll put it as an infinity. Izawa says. Everyone is in shock at what Izawa just said, and all the girls minus Jiro are looking at Izuku and are having nosebleeds. So we can actually use our quirks. This will be fun. A pink-skinned girl says. Fun, you say? How's this for fun? The person that places last will be expelled. Izawa says. What? Everyone except Momo and Izuku yell. But it's only the first day, that's not fair. Uraraka says. Fair life isn't fair, especially the life of a hero, so deal with it, and this is the second complaint you've had today. Like I said before, if you have a problem with the way I run my class you can always leave. Izawa says. I think I'll just shut up for the rest of the day. Uraraka says. Good choice, now let's start the tests. I'm Skip after the test. Alright you brats, here are the scores. Izawa says and the scores show up. 1. Kahaku. 2. Izuku Midoriya. 3. Momo Yaoyorozu. 4. Shoto Todoroki. 5. Katsuki Bakugu. 6. Tenya Iida. 7. Fumikage Tokoyami. 8. Mizo Shoji. 9. Mashirao Jiro. 10. Ijiro Kirishima. 11. Mina Shido. 12. Ichako Uraraka. 13. Koji Koda. 14. Rikido Sato. 15. Sayu Asui. 16. Yuga Aoyama. 17. Hantasiro. 18. Denki Kaminari. 19. Kyoka Jiro. 20. Toru Hagakure. 21. Minru Mineta. Mineta is currently on the ground crying. Wait, why is Kahaku on the list? She's not a student, everyone minus Mintia yells. What I like about cats, besides I won't make a difference if I take her out. All of you just move up 1 point. Aizawa says. So I'll still be expelled? Mineta asks. No, that was a lie. Aizawa says with a smirk. What, everyone except Momo and Izuku yell. Yeah, it was obviously a lie, sorry, I guess we should have said something. Momo and Izuku speak in unison. Yeah, you should have. Wanna thinks. All of a sudden Bakugo walks over to Izuku. Oi, green hair, is that actually your name? He asks. Yeah, it is there a problem? Izuku says. Bakugo, Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo says. Like I said before, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku says. Don't lie to me. Bakugo says. He's not lying, his name is Izuku Midoriya. Momo says. If that's true, what the hell are your useless ass doing here? Deku. Bakugo yells. Great is still a giant asshole. Izuku thinks to himself. Look, Bakugo, I have never met you before until today. Izuku says. Don't bullshit me, Deku, you know who I am, you quirkless piece of shit. Bakugo yells. This must be the guy Zuzu told me about all those years ago. Should I step in? No, Izuzu can handle it himself. Momo thinks to herself. Bakugo, how can he be quirkless? Didn't you see everything he did today? Iida asks. Shut the fuck up, Four Eyes, stay out this. Bakugo yells and then looks at Izuku. You want to play that game, Deku? Fine, watch this. Bakugo yells and points his hand towards Momo, and before he can do anything he is on the floor, face in the dirt with his arm about to snap. Izuku leans over and whispers in his ear. Hey Kaken, long time no see, listen here, you can try and attack me all you want, but if you ever try to harm Lady Yaoyorozu ever again, I'll break every bone in your body. Izuku smirks and gets up and brings it up. You know, I think you need a warning. Izuku says sadistically and picks it up by his neck. Aizawa-sensei, aren't you going to stop this? Iida asks. No, I'm not. Aizawa says. Why not? One yells minus Jiro, Momo, Izuku, and Todoroki. Because he's doing his job. Momo says. Izuku is Momo's bodyguard. Jiro says. They all turn to her. Bodyguard. They all say in unison. Yeah, and that's what happens when you piss him off. Jiro says and points to Izuku using Bakugo as if he were a hammer for whack-a-mole. No one mess with my mom. Izuku thinks to himself. Let's not get on his bad side, they all say at the same time. Izuku, that's enough. Momo yells and Izuku stops, but not before he slams Bakugo to the ground one last time. Puny hero. Izuku says and lets Bakugo go. Forgive me, my lady, I went overboard with a warning. Izuku says as he walks over to her. That was a warning, they all think at once. I think the dog also wants to send me a warning. My future wife needs to keep him on a short leash. Once we are married, I'll put this dog down. Todoroki thinks to himself. Alright class, go change and pick up your syllabus, after that you can all go home, class is over for today. Aizawa says as he picks Bakugo up with his scarf to take him to the nurse's office. Izuku, what you did to you yesterday, well, you went overboard. Momo says as they walk through the halls of UA. I'm sorry, Momo, but I couldn't take any chances of him hurting you. Izuku says. I understand, but please try and hold back for me. Momo asks and looks at Izuku with puppy dog eyes. Momo. Izuku says and nods to the woman I love. Izuku whispers. So what will your class do today, master? Kahaku asks. We might do regular school work in the morning and then we may have a heroics class in the afternoon. Izuku says. Who do you think our teacher might be? Zuzu? Momo asks. I don't know, maybe one of the top 10 or top 5. Izuku says. Well, we are here, let's get to our seats. Momo says. Izuku nods and opens the door and they walk in and everyone looks at them. They walk towards their seats and everyone stares at them. Hey Deku, Midoriya. Bakugo says and walks over to them. What is Bakugo? Izuku asks. I wanted to apologize for yesterday and well for everything. Bakugo says. Are you serious, Bakugo? Are you actually apologizing? Izuku asks. Of course I'm, you nerd. Bakugo yells. Sorry, well anyways, I am being serious. Bakugo says and looks at Izuku and reaches out his hand. I'm sorry, let's be friends. Bakugo says and smiles. Izuku smiles back and reaches his hand out to Bakugo and shakes it. Apology accepted by my old friend. I'm glad we are friends again, Kaken. Izuku says. Time skip. It seems your guess was right, master. Kahaku says and looks over at Izuku while she lays in Momo's lap. I guess it was, now it's time to see if the second half of my guess was right. Izuku says and smiles at Kahaku. I wonder who our heroics teacher will be. Mina says. I hope it's a cool hero. Dinky says. No, it should be a sexy hero with a tight hero custom that hugs her body. Mineta says. He gets death stares for every female in the room, including Kahaku. Zuzu, if he tries to do anything to me, have fun putting him in his place. Momo says and smiles sweetly. By your command, my lady. Izuku says and smiles back. I'm coming. All Might gets cut off when a green spiritual kunai passes only inches from his face and cuts a little of his hair off. Sorry about that, All Might, I'm in full bodyguard mode. Izuku says, rubbing the back of his head. It's alright young Midoriya, just try and calm down while you're at school. All Might says. I'm sorry All Might, I can't do that would be like asking you not to do hero work while you're off the clock. Izuku says. I understand. All Might says. Today students will be doing battle training. All Might says. Battle? Bakugo thinks to himself and smiles. Training. Izuku thinks. Now please change into these and meet me outside. All Might says and presses a button and a suitcase with numbers on them comes out of the wall. Are those our hero customs? Uraraka asks. Yes, they are young Uraraka. Scene changes outside the mock city. As the students come outside they see Momo talking to someone in a hero suit. Hey, who's that? Kirishima asks. I don't know, but that's one rad hero custom. Mina says. Yeah, it must have really cost a lot. Bakugo says. Are we ready to start? All Might asks. No sir, Midoriya isn't here. Shiro says. Yes he is. Jiro says. Really, where is he? Shoji asks. Over here. Izuku says as the mask of his hero custom disappears in green energy. Wow, amazing. One yells. Your custom is awesome, Deku. Uraraka says and she soon gets a glare from Izuku. Please don't call me that. Izuku growled a little. Why not, that's what Bakugo called you yesterday. Uraraka says. I called him that because I used to bully him for being quirkless, Deku for useless, is what I told kids. Bakugo says as he walks over to them. Man, the hero course is the best. Mineta yells and looks at Momo and is drooling. Izuku walks over to him slowly and picks him up by the collar. Go to hell you pervert. Izuku says and tosses Mineta to a wall with 5% of his power and Mineta hits the wall face first and leaves a Mineta-sized hole in the wall. All Might coughs. Well, with that out of the way, let's move on to today's lesson. All Might says and everyone looks at him. As I said earlier, we will be doing battle training today. It will be 2v2 battles, one hero team and one villain team. All Might says and looks at the students to see if anyone has any questions. I'm sure all of you see the battles that occur on the TV, but most of the battles take place inside in places like abandoned buildings, underground, and so on. He says as the students nod. We will decide the team by lottery. All Might says. Iida raises his hand. All Might sees this and calls on him. Yes young Iida, All Might says. Sir, why can't we just pick our own partners? Iida asks. Iida, when we are heroes we won't always be our friends or people we know. We could find ourselves working with heroes we don't get along with or with new heroes or heroes we have never met. Izuku says. Iida simply nods. Very well said young Midoriya, now on to the drawing, All Might says and pulls out two balls, one with an A on it and one with a D on it. Now let's look at the board. All Might says and the board is flashing pictures of students and it soon stops. Team A will be young Midoriya and young Iida as heroes vs young Bakugo and young Todoroki as villains. All Might says. After all the students have their teams and roles, Izuku looks at the board and sees that Momo is partnered up with the grape. Mineta is smiling madly, Momo is in the corner crying and Kahaku is trying to calm her down. Izuku walks over to Mineta quietly and gets down to his level and whispers in his ear. If you don't stop thinking whatever it is you're thinking, I'll send you flying into the wall again, and if you do anything to Lady Momo, I'll send you to an early grave, understand? Izuku asks with a smirk. Yes sir. Mineta says, shaking nervously. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.